Thank you, Prime Minister. Beth Rigby, Sky News. Look, PM, UK borrowing costs are at the highest since the financial crisis. Investors are worried about massive borrowing and flat growth. It leaves you in a bit of a pickle because you've predicated your decade of national renewal on economic growth that isn't happening. How is it changing your calculations on accelerating AI? And just to pick up on Chris's point, do you accept that in the meantime you will have to implement some spending cuts in the coming year? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Beth. The number one mission of this government is economic growth. And that was run through the budget. But there's much more that we're doing on economic growth, pulling those levers of change. So, for example, and I'll come to AI, your specific question, but changing the planning regime so that we can get stuff built more quickly, whether that's housing or infrastructure. Making sure that we're changing the way we supply our energy, which has been an inhibitor of growth for far, far too long. Putting in place a really strong industrial strategy, which will have AI at its heart. So all of these things, and now AI on top of that, are all there to generate and make sure that we promote the growth that we desperately need in our economy. My big criticism of the last government over 14 years that we had flat growth, and that's why we're taking all these measures to drive growth in our economy. And some of these measures, necessarily planning, energy, industrial strategy, they're all measures that we're taking in addition to everything that we've done in the budget in relation to this. So that's how I see AI powering us forward in that regard. And I think it can do so quickly. If there's one thing I think we all need to be clear about with AI is it's going to change things quicker than we think. Most people who only a few years ago were saying it'd probably take a decade before AI makes the sort of change that's been talked about are now saying, no, more like 5 years, even 4 or 3. So AI is changing things very, very fast. And that's why we need to create the conditions so that this country can be at the forefront of that. Gary from Channel 4.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Public sector reform won't deliver the sort of benefits that you're looking for fast. Neither will AI. That could take 10 years, a lot of people think, to actually deliver on the investments you hope to put in. So if you're absolutely sticking to the fiscal rules, that means you're coming back for spending cuts, doesn't it? And can I just ask you one more? You were talking about being able to regulate in a new way, an independent way. Do you see your freedom there as a Brexit benefit? Are you pleased that you can regulate in a different way? Some people probably expected you as Prime Minister to tack a little towards the EU. It sounds here as though you might be tacking a bit away.
Well, look, I think it is important to recognise that we've got the freedom now in relation to regulation to do it in the way that we think is best for the UK, and that's what we intend to do. You're right to say there are different models around the world. There's a sort of EU approach or a US approach, but we have the ability to choose the one that we think is in our best interest, and we intend to do so. Andy, Channel 5.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Andy Bell, 5 News. Your predecessor had an AI summit, and the next day he had a very chummy one-on-one broadcast session with Elon Musk. Now, you must be at least a bit worried that not only is presumably Elon Musk not wanting to invest in the country at the moment, but he will be telling anybody who will listen to him not to invest. I mean, what can you do about this?
Well, Andy, I'm really pleased that very highly successful players within the sector have come out very strongly in support of the plan that we've put on the table in the last day or two. And that is really significant because in the end, as I said in my speech, they are the ones that will be making the breakthroughs of the future. They are the ones that are deciding where is it that they want to have their office, where is it they want to have their staff. And they're not just saying that they like the plan, they're voting with their feet, if you like, and they're setting up their offices in London, in this country. So I'm really pleased about that. We will work with anybody in this sector, by the way, whether it's Elon Musk or anybody else. We're a government that's focused on being number one when it comes to AI and working with all. But I'm very pleased by what's already been said by some of the key people in this field.
Natasha Clark from LBC. You said that your plan will allow firms to use the unique resource of our NHS and our data. Which data is up for grabs, and will this be used to raise some money for the government? And just on the economy, is the Treasury right to be ruthless in their pursuit of spending cuts in the upcoming spending review? Thank you.
Yeah, just on the NHS, the first thing I'd say is we are in a unique position in this country because we've got the National Health Service. And the use of that data has already driven forward advances in medicine and will continue to do so. So we have to see this as a huge opportunity that will impact on the lives of millions of people really profoundly. The example I gave at the beginning of the speech was of someone who'd already had a stroke, but this has the potential to get ahead of that, to predict and prevent, and what a difference that will make to the lives of millions of people. It is important that we keep control of that data. I completely accept that challenge, and we will also do so. But I don't think that we should have a defensive stance here that will inhibit the sort of breakthroughs that we need. In terms of the ruthless approach when it comes to finances and spending, yes, we will be ruthless, as we have been ruthless in the decisions that we've taken so far. We've got clear fiscal rules, and we're going to keep to those fiscal rules, and that's why the Chancellor was absolutely right in the words that she chose to describe the approach that we will take.
Anna Gross from the FT. Just to pick up on Natasha's question, can you clarify whether the government plans to make the National Data Library, including NHS data, available to companies and researchers for commercial use, as well as to improve public services? And if so, can you please talk us through what your current thinking is in terms of how that data will be priced?
The data library is really important. It's something the sector have been crying out for. We need to make sure that it works properly, protecting the interests that need to be protected. When it comes to health data, particularly NHS data, it is really important that we stay in control of this, and we will stay in control of it, because we need, on the one hand, all anonymised, of course, to use the potential of that data, but on the other hand, make sure it's properly protected. And the way to protect it, in my view, is to keep control of it.
Kieran Stacey from The Guardian. On a slightly separate tech issue, can I ask you what you make of Meta's recent decision to stop fact-checking on its site? And is there not a risk here with what you're describing on AI that you create a new generation of unaccountable tech barons?
No, I mean, on the decision by Meta, I mean, the way I look at this is through the lens of the Online Safety Act in terms of the provisions that we've got in place. And I think they're right. Obviously, some of them are coming on stream now. So that was an important piece of legislation, and that's the way I see it. In terms of the second part of your question, I think in the end, when it comes to AI, posture really matters. And there are a number of postures, but the two obvious ones are those that are defensive and inhibited and cautious about AI and think that it should be regulated, and that's the only thing that the government needs to do. The other posture is seeing it as a huge and fantastic opportunity that is going to transform lives, and the role of government is, yes, to get the framework right, but also to work with the sector to ensure that we're winning the race when it comes to AI. I'm in the second group. I think it's a fantastic opportunity.